Something that I do not see acknowledged very often is, or at least not in the way that I'm about to word it, is that it's very hard to have a consistent sense of identity when you don't have a fulfilling, purposeful career that fulfills you. No community, no friends, and no family. And with the way that the economy is going, most people are kind of heading in that direction. And it just makes me feel like that's probably where most mental disorders and mental illness come in. Because I feel like people naturally crave to have a sense of identity. And people are like, oh, well, in this day and age, you can just do anything. Like, nobody's stopping you. You can be anyone and do anything. In my experience, though, it's so much more complicated than that. Like, you can't just, if life was as easy as like just posting garbage online and getting famous, which some people do. And by the way, influencers, I can see you posting your catty little comments to each other when one of your influencer friends makes a video making fun of regular people and poking and prodding at us and saying that you think you're better than us, and then saying, keeping it real. And by the way, regular people, I have no idea why you're such stupid sheep that you're encouraging and following these absolute cattle pigs that don't deserve what they have, especially with their disgusting attitude. But I digress. You can't really, just generally speaking, just like start putting yourself out there and just like get cared and known about, especially after a certain point in your life. Like, and some people literally don't even have opportunities when they're young, and even the opportunities that you do have are not really opportunities. And the reality is that you kind of have to make a life worth living from the ground up, even if you do have a wealthy family. Sometimes, like, and by wealthy, I mean like just someone who's able to pay for college and internships, which really isn't anything in the real world. It's actually just play pretend. And it just sucks because I literally suffer from what I personally would define as psychosis and severe chronic exhaustion every day, because I know that I have no genuine, fulfilling, permanent identity. Like, I go through phases where I'll work on projects, and while I'm working on them, I'll know who I am. But nobody will be there reaffirming that, and there's not any end goal, and it doesn't lead to anything else, and there's nobody else enjoying that journey other than me. And I know for a fact that I have a very, very complex, rich inner life, much more than most of the cocky, undeserving women and influencers on here do, who just post the same extremely annoying, memeified garbage over and over again, and do their little mindless catty like, oh, here is the new non-sponsored item, and here's me posting in the same little pippy annoying voice after I just made fun of my followers like 2 videos ago. And people are such self-sabotaging sheep that for some reason they just eat it up, and I get money, so I don't care. As long as I'm winning and getting something out of it, etc. And it's so weird to like not have a place as an adult where you can genuinely just go out and just share in what you thought that day or what you created. People are like, oh, social media, but social media is sociopathic. Social media is nothing but just like people either pretending to be famous, people who are famous that don't deserve it with terrible attitudes. And it's very, very, very repulsive what normal people encourage for some reason from those people, but or it's celebrities, and it's just a bunch of political and sociopathic arguments all day. I'm talking about real life, tangible community, like the way it was in school, where you just get up and go and talk about your day and talk about your experiences and talk about the thoughts and the jokes that you thought of. Because life is just so maddening, and having no genuine sense of reaffirmation of identity is unbearable. And I feel like everyone deserves to have a sense of identity. And most people out here are just walking around like, they, even if they know who they are for a little while, most people are not cared about at all. Like, at all. Like, and even the people that are, it's usually just like a handful of friends, if even that, or like maybe a couple of hundred followers. And it's not natural to live in a society that says like, oh, well, if you're lucky, maybe you'll be cared about for a little while, but you're going to have to work like hell to maintain being cared about, and you're going to have to work like hell to be known. And it's so weird to me because we're literally put on this earth to be known and to share in experiences. And I'm one of those, I'm sure apparently many people that has spent 99% of their life only knowing themselves And I know for a fact that I've been a very complex, creative, funny, etc. person, but I never wanted to execute it because I was brainwashed into thinking my whole life that I wasn't a person that was worth sharing, and I just knew the default was that nobody cared. And I still carry around that default headspace with me to this day, which has led to a lot of personality disorders and a very suffocated, passive aggressive, angry, congested personality. And I feel like a lot of people go around walking in a very like dull, gray way. And it's funny because I've met a handful of people in the past couple of years who are very like alive. And I'm not talking about influencers. I mean, just regular people, no following, not a celebrity, who just have like this life to them. And like they just have this certain humor and this certain character and belief that they just walk around with. And I feel like everybody deserves to have that reaffirmed. And I'm not saying that you have to have it reaffirmed by other people, but 99% of people do. And even the people that don't usually suffer for it and express that suffering eventually at some point or another. And I literally feel like my head is imploding lately, like genuinely imploding, because as an adult, everything is so isolated, or it's narcissistic from somebody who does not care about you, who's only using you as a dollar sign. And it's funny because these influencers have literally no character at all. Like these people that run the social media platforms that regular people like us are supposed to be going on and expressing community, because apparently that's supposed to be the replacement for school, which is ridiculous. And it's just funny to me that like the people that do end up blowing up have like literally no character because they're cowards and they're afraid to continue to be an individual even after they blow up. They use all the same pop music, even if it doesn't even correlate with the meaning of their video that they're sharing about. They do all the same memes, all the same jokes. And it's just, I see it happen to literally everybody who gets famous, and it's created such a fucking repetitive plastic world. I understand that most people are boring, or they're not like pipey or interesting, or they're not trolling enough or whatever, but unique people are so hard to find. But I feel like it's not because they don't exist. I feel like everybody you meet is probably unique, but everyone's been brainwashed into thinking that they're not worth expressing, or it's awkward for them to express, or God forbid that they be cringe in order to figure out who they are publicly, or God forbid that people make mistakes, or that they go through a weird phase or whatever. And as a result, people just end up being nothing at all. And that leads to a lot of really, really painful mental and emotional issues, because I feel like we're destined and we're put on this earth to have a genuine, true, consistent sense of identity. And it is true that life is kind of just like inherently void and empty. But that's the problem, is that people are brainwashed into thinking that they are the void rather than being the light in the void and being the life in the void. And even if you are an incredibly interesting or complex person, or even if you are talented or work hard or you're original, it's very, very hard to find places that will reaffirm that journey that you're going on or that phase you go through. And I think most people are literally just living their life, like just sharing and celebrating and experiencing life completely and utterly on their own. For me personally, it's leading to a vague sense of complete insanity and of a constant sense of unreality. And I've completely outgrown every popular person on the internet pretty much at this point, which has just made me feel even more bored and crazy and lonely, because I realized that people do not care about like real people, despite the fact that real, authentic people are literally what you see every minute of every day in real life. And there's this very, very deep sense of inequality, socially and spiritually in society, where only like 10 people are genuinely talked about every day, and only like 5. And the rest of the world is literally just completely and utterly ignored. Taylor Swift has literally been the only person that's been talked about on Twitter for months now. Months. Like there are so many interesting, creative, complex people in this world, but I am genuinely convinced that it's not the fact that they're actually boring. And even if they were, it's the fact that they're brainwashed into thinking that they're not allowed to expand and to experiment and to express. And I don't mean that literally. Like technically people are allowed to do that, but I'm saying that socially people are abused into thinking that they're just destined to be boring and stagnant and the same thing. And And the influencers are the special people, or the famous people are the only ones that get to grow, and it's fucking stupid.